Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear most venerable Mahasangha and dear friends of the Dhamma, now we are going to start our Dhamma and Dharma program conducted by the United Sangha Council. The United Sangha Council is to unite all the monks, nuns, temples, and Buddhists around the world, regardless of their nikaya, regardless of their any other things like their basic culture or language they speak or where they live. So as a part of it, we have started a monthly program to discuss the teaching of the Buddha, both main traditions, Theravada and Mahayana. We do not even like to use those terms. Instead, we have been using now Pali tradition and Sanskrit tradition, so that we would focus directly on the teaching of the Buddha, regardless of any other particular outside matters. And so today, for our valuable Dhamma discussion, there are very important, young in age, but deep in wisdom and Dhamma knowledge. 3 months we have invited. With the help of Venerable Geshe Dharge, the Secretary of the United Sangha Council, we could invite Venerable Thanpa Rinpoche. As we mentioned, Rinpoche means precious jewel. I think it would be newfound precious jewel for our United Sangha Council. So welcome him, and also then Venerable Pap Phan from Vietnamese tradition, who is living in Sri Lanka, and Venerable Kirinje Vijayasera, who is living in Canada, originally from Sri Lanka. And these 3 months would be the 2 main speakers. And we are so fortunate to have Venerable Yogavachara Rahul, who is very senior one, with vast knowledge in the Dhamma. He is going to lead the meditation, 10 minutes meditation. And also Venerable Geshe Dharge is going to lead the Vandana. And all this program would be conducted by Venerable Mr. Kamal Siri Pero. And I, on behalf of the United Sangha Council, I welcome you all with very respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Bante Dhammaloka. Then next we are going to do the Vandana. This is today going to be conducted by Venerable Geshe Dharge. I think he's going to do it in Pali and Sanskrit both language. Then I would like to invite to him for the Vandana.
Thank you. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavatam Abhivadimi Savakato Bhagavato Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supati Pano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangam Namami. Let me do in Sanskrit next. Buddham cha dharmam cha gato tamam yavadi buddham sharanam gadoshmi dhanadi punyasya cha krite mayebi buddho bhaviyam jagato hitaya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lamaji. Next meditation, it will be conducted by Bhante Yogavachara Rahula. I would like to invite him to conduct the meditation session.
And I'll try to sit straight and gently close the eyes and straighten the spine. Feel the head balanced on top of the neck. Now bring your attention down to feel where the buttocks and feet press your seat. Just feel the weight of the body pressing the seat, your feet pressing the floor. And feel your hands and fingers touching together. Try to feel the subtle pulse of blood in your hands or fingers. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulders. Now feel the head balanced on top of the spinal column. Then rest your attention behind the eyes. Just feel the eyes and the sockets. From that point behind the eyes, try to feel the outline of the sitting body. Feeling the buttocks and feet underneath, the arms at the sides, the head on top. And just remember the present moment of sitting, sitting, sitting. Try to relax all the muscles. Just feel the subtle vibrations, sensations in the body. Now take a few deep, slow breaths. Try to take 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. Then feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath. And feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take a few more deep, slow breaths like this, thinking, developing this basic mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now on the next out breath, just let the deep breathing alone, just let the breath return to its uncontrolled or shorter, irregular rhythm, but continue to feel it. Just keep the attention focused, either feeling the air going in and out of the nostrils or feeling the expanding and contracting sensations of each in and out breath. And just maintain that present moment concentration, just breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Just try to feel the 4 phases of each breath cycle. The incoming breath and the brief pause. The outgoing breath and the brief pause. It's like looking down through a microscope, through the concentrated awareness, to feel the subtle sensation of the breathing process. And the brief pauses between the breaths, feel the outline of the sitting body. And with each out breath, just relaxing the body and mind with each out breath. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. With each out breath, allowing the body and mind to relax more and more into the present moment. This breathing body is the natural connection to the present moment. The present moment centered in the body, in the breathing body. Just feeling the subtle sensations coming and going throughout the whole body. Just letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Just keeping sensations of the breathing body in the front of the awareness. May all beings be well, peaceful, and happy. May all beings be free from greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance. May all beings be free from the pains and sufferings of body and mind brought about by their unskillful thoughts, speech, and actions. May all beings have the patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom to meet and overcome all difficulties in life. May all beings be able to hear the Dhamma and to learn and practice meditation to help free their minds from confusion and suffering. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. You can open the eyes and come out of the meditation.
Thank you, Bante Rahul. Now we are going to start today special talk about the today topic. And the first talk going to give by Thongkor Rinpoche. And I would like to invite to him to start his talk.
Kangi tenjin dewa rung gawa meba keme cheba meba tam owa meba jomeba tade tumi tenjin min dewa nishi shidenba zobe sangye manangi tamba dewa changse lo. Everything that arises interdependently is unceasing and unborn, neither non-existent nor everlasting, neither coming nor going, neither multiple nor single. To this teaching that pacifies all concepts and duality, the most sacred speech of the fully enlightened Buddha, we pay homage. So, with homage to the Triple Gem and most humble greetings to all the venerables here, and to the general public. So greetings to everyone, and let me start today's topic. So, and first of all, let me say this. It is such an honor. First of all, it's such an fortunate thing to have this conversation, the Dhamma and Dharma conversation. So I'm not going to explain in long terms, but the followers of the Buddha spread across all over the globe, being able to converse, being able to interact. So that by itself is such a marvelous feat. So therefore, I rejoice in the event that is happening today. And of course, thanks to the organizers, the Dhamma and Dharma committee. And secondly, it's a great honor for me to start today's topic. Actually, it should be started by our elder brothers. So as His Holiness always say, our brothers from the Theravadan systems are our elder brothers, and then followed by the Chen, the Buddhist from China, from Vietnam, from Japan, so on and so forth. And thirdly comes the Tibetan Buddhist. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to start first. And I think I will take that as a test conducted by our elders, and whatever mistakes that I may make by initiating the talk, I humbly request the elders to correct me later on, whenever you see fit to correct me. So with this, let me begin today's topic. And so the topic is death, or the near-death experiences in Buddhism, in Buddha Dharma, or the perspective on death and practices in regard to near-death death or experiences nearing to death. So before we talk about death, so we can sum it up as, we can sum up death as the culmination of life. So when life comes to an end, when life culminates, it is called nothing but death. So the end of life is the beginning of death. So in order to understand death or dying properly, we have to understand life or living properly. So for that matter, what is life? The question begs naturally. And so for this, I would like to quote one Buddhist scholar from the 4th to 5th century, someone by the name of Acharya or Master Vasubandhu, who wrote the Abhidharma Kosha, the books on Abhidharma, also known as the, literally translated, known as the treasure of knowledge. So Abhidharma Kosha is somewhat similar to Encyclopedia Buddhistica. So similar to Encyclopedia Britannica, this is the Encyclopedia Buddhistica. So in the Abhidharma Kosha by Acharya Vasubandhu, he states, let me phrase it in Tibetan first, because that's what I learned. So here he states, life is a period that acts as the foundation for consciousness and heat. So when we look at this quote from Acharya Vasubandhu, we see three characteristics of life, for life. The first thing is that life is nothing but a span of time, a period. So therefore, in Tibetan, we the term for life, which is sok, or life force, which is sok, is also we refer to life as tse. Tse and sok are both synonyms for life, and tse is also a synonym for time in Tibetan, a period, a time, a span of time. So when we talk about culmination of life or end of life, we are talking about the culmination of a time. So Acharya Vasubandhu states the first characteristics of the life is that it is a span of time. The second is that it acts as the foundation for consciousness. And the third is that it acts as the foundation for heat. Consciousness, because consciousness is what constitutes as a sentient being. So, we always talk about this. I'm not the body. I'm not the eye. I'm not the skin, so on and so forth. So the physical body, that is not me. So there is a me. There is a self, so to speak. Not self as in the Atma, but self as in being, a human being or a sentient being. There is someone. So, for example, Tonkor, myself, Tonkor, am talking, and there should be a Tonkor. So the constituent for my being is my consciousness. So within Buddhism, there are 4 schools of Buddhist philosophy: the Yoga-bhashiks, the Sotantrikas, the Chittamatrins, and the Madhyamika. So there are some differences between the 4, but all these schools of Buddhist philosophy except there is a self, as in the sense of sentient being. And so the constituent for a being is none other than the consciousness. So as I said, there are some differences in the school of thought, which we can discuss later. So so when we have to pinpoint as someone or some being, so a sentient being, we have to look for the constituent is none other than the consciousness. So therefore, and the consciousness is an intangible thing. It is it's too subtle on its own to move or to activate other phenomena. So therefore, the constituent, the consciousness, which is our self, in order to activate other things, such as to look at a certain thing, to meditate upon something, to pick up a pen, to write something, whatever we have to do, we need to do that through a medium that is physical. And the first form, within the physical world, there are the cruder form of physicality, as well as the subtle form of physicality. And the most subtle form of physicality is the wind energy, or we can also understand the wind energy as the wave, or the or just energy itself. So the consciousness, since it's intangible, we always say that the mind is intangible. So we know the mind can traverse through everything, anything. So because of for that reason, by mind itself cannot activate other things except through a medium, and that medium is the wind energy. And so the life force acts as the carrier for the wind energy. So within the wind energy, there are subtle wind energies and the cruder form of wind energy. So the wind energies carry the thoughts or the mind stream across the body, or across through the interaction through the body, the physicality, the physical aggregate, towards other forms of life, or towards other forms of external worldly things, and so on and so forth. And so without going into much more detail, the third aspect, or the third characteristics of the life, is that it also acts as the foundation for heat. So heat, except for the beings who were born in the formless realm, so we have the desire realm, form realm, and the formless realm. Except for beings born in the formless realm, every other beings actually rely on heat or warmth. And so therefore, life acts as the foundational basis for all these two, consciousness and heat, and it is a span of time. So from that understanding, this is how we understand life. Life is a span of time, and also it is as long as the consciousness, which constitute as the being, the sentient being, is able to interact, or is able to command, or in other words, is not separated from the physicality, from the physical body. So as long as the mind and the matter, if you like, the matter being the physicality, the physical aggregates, and the mind are not separated, when they are together, we call that the life, the person as being alive. And to simply put, this is how we understand life. And when the mind is separated from the body, when the mind and body are no longer together, then it is understood as the life has culminated, or death has occurred. So the life, so it brings to the question of the becoming of death. So we understand somewhat what death is, what life is. So the becoming of death, or the formation of death, if you like. So first, I would like to bring them into the formation of death, and within that transition from life to death, how can we apply the practices? So, as I said earlier, when the mind and the body are together, mind and the matter. So when I say matter, I'm referring to the physical aggregates. So the physical aggregates and the psychophysical aggregates are together. As long as they're together, it is life. And when they are separated, life is, as they are separating, life is degrading. And actually that the dying process, the degradation of life starts from the very first moment of birth itself. So the next moment after birth, we are getting one step, 1 second, 1 moment closer to our death, our end, the culmination of life. So as since life is a span of time, the moment it started, the moment it degrades. Now, when we look at it in a more cruder, from a cruder perspective, so if we were to dissect the formation of death, so normally when we say near death or formation of death, we are talking about in the very last moments of our lives. So what happens there is, so first of all, when we talk about the aggregates, there are 5 aggregates. There is the form aggregate, or that can be understood as the physical aggregate. And then we have the feeling aggregate. We have the discriminative aggregate or perceptive aggregate. And then we have the compositional factor, the compositional aggregate. And then we have the consciousness. So apart from the first, which is the form aggregate, all other forms of aggregates sort of belong to the mind. To the mind. So when we talk about, we can think of that as in the sense of mind and matter. So the form aggregate is the matter, and the rest are mind. So at the time of death, in the dying process, what happens is the body is also, so since the occurrence of death happens with separation of mind from the body, so we have to understand what happens within the body itself. So within the body is made up, even though body is not, I'm not the body, and the body is not me. The body is made up of fundamentally, it's made up of the 4 elements. So what happens at the time of death is, in the very beginning of the occurrence of death or the near death, what happens is what we call the submerging processes. So what happens in the beginning, at the beginning of the dying process, the near death experience, is the submerging of the earth element into the water element into the fire element, and the fire element into the wind element, and then the wind element finally submerging into consciousness. So what happens is when the earth element submerges or degrades, then our body loses its the solid formation. So normally when we press on our body, the flesh or the skin comes back. If we poke on our body very sternly, if we poke our body, the skin will come back up. So when the formation of death, in the sense of earth submerging into the water, occurs, the body no longer retracts back to its original shape, living shape. So therefore, at that time, the person who is dying will look very weak, and so on and so forth. And at that time, from the perspective of the dying person himself or herself, the experience of something called a warm light occurs. And so there's something called the warm light, the increase, and then the near attainment. So, anyway, so from the perspective of the person who is dying, he feels as if there is a warm light or a low light is there. And so from the earth element merges into the water element, and the water element dries up or merges into the when the water element dries up into the heat or the fire element, then the person loses all forms of saliva and tears and all that, all liquid form, all the so the person basically becomes more and more dehydrated, and they lose their vocal power and so on and so forth. At that time, the person also loses the ability to hear, to decipher the meanings of the words spoken. And then they have what we call the vision or an awareness. So this is dissimilar to seeing something directly like we are seeing each other. So it's more of a vision. So they have the vision of they have a vision of a mirage, something that is there but not very clear. And then when the fire element, when the fire element dissolves into or submerges or dissolves into the wind energy, what happens is that person no longer, since the heat element or the fire element is dissipating, the person loses heat. And at that moment, the person is not able to think carefully, not able to comprehend, not able to contemplate, and so on and so forth. And at the moment, the person also has the awareness of what we call the firefly. So even though we can see a firefly, the firefly is not able to light up anything within the atmosphere, so except its own body. So this sort of awareness or this sort of vision comes to the person, the dying person. So please let me know when my time is up. I
think
it is already up.
Completed your time.
Oh,
yeah. You can
okay.
take a few,
So
1 or 2 minutes.
Thank you, Bande. And so yeah, let me just conclude it in maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And so basically, all the each element merges or dissolves into the other element, and when finally when wind energy dissolves into the fire element dissolves into the wind energy or the wind element, then the person loses the ability to contemplate and so on and so forth. And then the wind energy. So here we are talking about the wind energy in the sense of cruder form of wind energy. So that cruder form of wind energy is able to carry our thoughts or carry our perceptive mind, perception, to interact with outer world and so on and so forth. So that cruder form of wind energy dissipates. It also dissolves into what is known as the subtle form of wind energy. And the subtle form of wind energy, there is also, the subtle form of wind energy also has a companion called subtle mind. And the subtle mind is the mindset. The subtle mind is also referred to as the perennial mind, the infinite mind or perennial mind. So the perennial mind actually is not a new mind, so to speak. It does not belong to this body alone, but the mind that has been coming since beginningless. So normally we talk about life being beginningless, but most of our thoughts, when I see all the venerables here, all the audience here, this is a new sort of mindset. But the perennial mind has been there, the continuum of the perennial mind has been there ever since the beginning, beginningless, infinity. So therefore, the mind, the wind energy dissolves into the cruder form of wind energy we are referring to here, dissolves into the subtle form of wind energy, which actually sits with its own companion, which is more like a yin and yang thing, with its companion, which is the subtle mind. So the subtle mind is sometimes, they both situates at the center of our heart, or at the core of our body. And so when it all dissolves into that, to the center of our body, this is what we call the final stages of death. And so in that final stage of death, also known as the clear light, a person who is a Dharma practitioner, who is a practitioner of different level, can stay in that clear form of clear light, or the subtle form of mind, for as long as they would like. And since they are free from all the crude level of wind energy, and so therefore crude mind, so they are no longer distracted by anything outside. And so for the person can remain in the non-distracted, totally focused state of consciousness or of awareness for as long as they like. And so therefore that reason in Tibetan tradition, when a person dies, we let them remain in their the dying state without moving the body, without putting the body into a pyre, and so on and so forth. And so since that time, when the wind energy, when the energies elements begin to dissolve into each other, the cruder form of wind, and so therefore the cruder form of mind is no longer there, it's already dissolved. One is not able to hear properly, one is not able to see what is going on outside. So therefore, if we have to, when we do prayers for the living person who is at the dying stage, it is better to do that before that stage, because at that final stage, the person, if he has some experiences, some spiritual experiences, he can do it internally. If he doesn't, anything that we do from outside does not make much effect, does not take much effect. Of course, there is merit gained by doing puja or whatever, but it does not affect the mindset of the person whose the three doors, the doors, the ability to hear, the ability to see, all those doors are closed. So therefore, it is better to do the practices before that stage occurs. So I would like to conclude here, and a veneration to all the Sangha members here, and greetings to everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. The explanation and give an introduction for death. It is a deep and very complicated subject, and give some explanation about the rituals before the death. Then next talk going to give by Pump Kwan. I think I pronounced correctly his name, and he has come from Chan or Zen background. Normally we say the Mahayana tradition. Then I like to invite to him to give his talk.
Namo Buddhaya. Good morning, dear Mahasangha, dear Dhamma brothers and sisters. My name is Venerable Pháp Quang. I come from Vietnam. Nowadays, I'm living in Sri Lanka. First, I would like to thank you, Bante Dhammaloka, who invited me come to this program. So today, actually, this is the first time I'm be here. I'm very happy, and I would like to share my knowledge and my experience. And now we can continue our topic today: near-death Buddhist perspective and practice. So in this topic, I would like to divide 5 blocks. First, introduction. Second, near-death experience. And number 3, practice to make the near-death experience good. And number 4, near-death in Vietnam Buddhist tradition. And the last conclusion. At the beginning, I would like to say, all we will dead. This is sure 100%. But nowadays, many people, they are busy. They have many work to do. So they're not scared or they don't mind about they will dead. But you can see every day, many people dead until now. So first, we should know what's the death. Actually, according to Buddhist, death is the start in the next life. So do not worry about that. According to Abhidhamma text, there are 3 kinds of death. Death of a noble people, death of the noble persons, death of Arahant. So death of normal person. So you can see when the noble person, they nearly the death, they are very worried. They have a lot of pain in their body. They might not concentration. So this is a problem for them to be the next life. But for the noble person or Arahant, so usually they have the good karma, good sila, good samadhi. So they never worry about their death. And remember, the last breath is very important. If who concentration on the last breath, this is very good for them in when they need a death. And also there is treatment of experience time for the death since one's karma, since side of one's karma. And number third, since future destinies. So you can see if every day we doing the good karma, when we thinking, when we talking, and when we action, so the time also will change. So I mean, they have no any problem for they need a death. And how to practice to make the near death experience good. So first, I would like to say you one sutta about Mahanama. One day, Mahanama on the way to meet the Buddha. So suddenly he has accident, but he's still fine. So after that, he went to the monastery and to meet the Buddha, and he asked the question, Buddha, if sometime I have accident and I will dead, but in this time my mind is not concentration, my mind is panicked. So where I will go in my next life? So the Buddha tell Mahanama, so you don't worry, like the bottle keep oil on the beach. After that, the boat they have accident, so the oil they will go on in the water, and the bottle they will fall down in the water, in the beach, in the sea. So if you have good karma, you have good sila, so you like a bottle or you like the oil go on in the water. So the practice to make near the death experience good. So the first, if you have the good sila, I mean, if you have to practice 5 days every day. And the second, you should do meditation. The mindfulness is very important. So, and also before sleep or after we get up, so we usually practice meditation. And number 3, so panya. If you have good wisdom, so you also do not worry about when you need a death. And also the punya is very good for everyone. Yeah, if every day you do the good thing, like do a good thing and do not do the bad thing, and you always try to help others. And next, so living a simple life. And the last one, you should thinking about anicca and the death every day. So when they need a death, so no any worry about death. In Vietnam Buddhist tradition, nearly death, so actually their family usually invite Buddhist monk or nuns come to their home, chanting, give Dhamma talk for the people when they are sick or they are near the death. And also their family usually do a good charity for gift for poor people, or offer for the temple and for the dana offer food for Buddhist monk. So actually, they give a lot of good merits for the people near death, because they can actually the people they can get a little the merits from their family, what they done for the people near death. So after that, they also to be the next life, good next life. Finally, conclusion. I think practicing near the death is very important in our life. So if you want to be a good life and at the present moment or the next life, yeah. So you have to wake up. You have to be a good person. You have to do more charity, more punya, and you have to spend more time to practice meditation, and you have to good morality. So this is for good for you to prepare when you need the death, your after the death. So thank you for Mahasangha and all brother and sister for listening today. So may the Triple Gem bless you, and may you be happy and good energy. So sadhu sadhu.
Thank you so much. And your talk was very organized and short, and you give all of the information which we need here. And now the third talk, we are going to invite Bante Vijita. He also originally from Sri Lanka, but now lives in Canada. Then yes, kindly start your talk.
My humble respect to all the senior monks who are here and all the other venerable monks, and greetings to all the participants. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to this special gathering and talk about Buddhist perspectives on near death and Buddhist practices. As invited and requested, my focus is to reflect a little bit on the Theravada Buddhist practices. Here, I would like to take your attention to a few discourses of the Buddha. And if you would like to, read them, so I invite you to write down. And Venerable monks knows these suttas. Mainly Anathapindako Vada Sutta, that is one of the significant discourses comes in Theravada tradition. Anathapindika was one of the famous lay followers of the Buddha. And in this discourse, it talks about when he comes to his end of life, how Buddha himself and other respected monks, how they supported him. The other sutta that I'm referring here is Gilana Sutta. There was another householder named Chitta. When he come to his end of life, how the monks supported him. The other one is Nakula Pitu Sutta. Nakula Pitu is one of the lay followers of the Buddha. And the other one is Channovada Sutta. Channa also one of the monks, and he attained enlightenment. And how other venerable monks, when he comes to his end of life, how other monks supported him. So summarizing all these discourses, and what I came to know that Buddha himself and all the other venerable monks who are well versed in Dhamma, when they see or support someone who is at the end of their life, what they did is supported that person to reflect on the Dhamma. That's a very significant act, in the Buddhist tradition, that when we support someone who is coming to the end of their life, that what we can do is support that person to reflect on the Dhamma. So this has to be done very gently, so we don't want to disturb too much when someone is coming to the end of life. And how do we support is the question. When we are alive, it is, I think, very important to write down what are some of the discourses that you like to reflect at the last moment of your life. And if there is someone that you trust, what are some of the reflection from the Dhamma that you would like this person to read? And that will help you to reflect on your own practices and, keep your mind at a peaceful state. And the other part is, when someone is coming to the end of life, it's a very emotional time for those who are in their families. Mostly they cry and, all these negative vibrations, but it's very important to support this person, to keep that person's mind in a very calm and quiet state without much, generating negative energy in that environment. The other thing is that when someone is coming to the end of life, mostly in Theravada traditions, people invite monks and do chantings. So that's one of the very famous practices. It is important to remember, when you are alive, even to read those, chantings and understand the meaning of them. So that when the monks come and do chanting, that will help you to reflect on the Dhamma itself. So these are some of the rituals that we can do at the end of life. The other one I would like to mention, one other practices is, thinking of or reminding good things that person has done in this life. When someone comes to at the end of life, fear is a very strong emotion that can overtake. So therefore, supporting that person, we can remind some of the beautiful things that this person has done in terms of practicing dana, sila, bhavana. So those reminders will help that person to, keep the mind in a positive state. So these are some of the rituals, some of the practices that we can do in order to support when someone is coming to the end of life. So what are the Buddhist perspectives on death? And the two venerable monks, provided a very deep explanation about life and, Buddhist perspectives around those things. One thing that Buddha always encourages us is, to reflect death itself and do meditation on death. And be familiar with death, talk about death, and don't afraid to, experience that reflection when you can. even to think about the very moment that you're going to die and reflecting on that, noticing what are the fears, what are the emotions that I encounter when I think of my own mortality. Thinking of those and dealing with them and being very comfortable with death is very important. So when you're comfortable with death, there's no fear, there's no frustration, there's no anger, and you are completely ready to live. So this readiness comes as a practice of Dhamma. So when Sariputta, one of the famous, well-known disciples of the Buddha, when he visited Anathapindika, when the Anathapindika was old, sick, and comes to his end of life, the Venerable Sariputta invited him. You should train yourself in this way. I won't cling to my eye. I won't cling into my ear. I won't cling into my body, and so forth. So when someone hasn't practiced Dhamma, and if we're going to tell these things, might not make sense when when your body and mind is so weak and not be able to comprehend those deep teachings. So therefore, Buddha's invitation is, when you can, when you are fully conscious, when you have strength, lead your life on Dhamma. Do this reflection and train your mind. So when you have that training, you eventually come to an understanding that this life is nothing but two things. One is arising and passing away. In Theravada tradition, the two words being highlighted is Uppada and Vaya. So there is no one middle thing that exists as Titi, but two things. What is arising and passing away? Arising and passing away. There is no anything in between that exists without changing. So this teaching is one of the significant teaching of the Buddha, that is Paticca Samuppada, dependent co-origination. And there are different translations to this as well. Simply, it means that whatever arises based on causes and conditions. When the causes and conditions are not there, that ceases. So as the Venerable said at the beginning, and it comes in the Theravada tradition as well, that when we born, we start dying. So we celebrate birth, but don't celebrate death. It's very unfair in a way, So we have to celebrate both. So for the Dhamma practitioner, death is a celebration. There's nothing to be worried and feared or anxious. All these strong emotions comes when there is perspective that I exist. And then this I is going to die. But the whole Dhamma practice invites us to see there is no I. It's only arising and passing away. There's just this whole existence is based on causes and conditions. So therefore, when there is no I, there's no one to die. So there are those reflections as well that are helpful to understand. But when it comes to end of life and supporting someone, it's a good practice to write down what you would like to reflect at the last moment of your life. What are the teachings that you would like to hear? How you want the environment to be? Do you want it to be calm? Do you want it to be peaceful? Do you want other people to come and disturb you, constantly talking to you, or you just want leave alone and stay calm. So it's good to write down and, like you write your will. I think it's a good practice to write down and keep it as a record that at the last moment of your life, those who are in your family knows how to create that environment. I think I'm going to stop here. We can leave some time for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for three of you give the introduction and explanation. However, still anyone not ready to death, but we know definitely in a day we will die, and we have to prepare for that. And it also good opportunity in our existence to understand the life, and it also a turning point in our samsaric life. To where we go, what will we do, and who will us, who will be I? Those are questions in our very important questions in our life. Then it is time to the discussion. Then here we have our main speakers, three of them here, and Bhante Sutadhara is here, Bhante Rahul also here, and again Darge Rinpoche and Bhante Dhammaloka also here. Therefore, you can ask any question among to this topic today. And before the end of the session, Bhante Sutadhara will give a summary about today's discussion.
Bande Kamlashri, if anyone have a question, they can ask, right?
Yes.
Okay. Please, you can unmute it, or you can text here in the chat any your question. And before that, I really like to thank you, all of you three. I took like picture walls more than 20 years now. So saying who have holding this walls 20 years, seeing you all very young and then very knowledgeable with this, and not just knowledgeable, very inside. So that makes us like Buddha Dhamma will remaining very, very long lasting in this earth. Thank you for encouraging us. So please begin question.
Until anyone asks question, I have a question for Pak Kwan. You mentioned about Mahanama, which text you got that story from any Mahayana books or any Theravada book?
Namo Buddhaya.
I think my question was clear for you.
Yes, Bhante. Yeah, Bhante, thank you for giving my question. Actually, in this topic, yeah, I use the Tipitaka, yeah, Theravada books, yeah, to explain what I say. yeah, and the story what I would like to want to share. In Mahayana, actually, we have also a lot of sutta talk about nearly the death. But in this conversation, I only say about some sutta from Tipitaka, like the first sutta like Mahanama in Sayamchutta Nikaya, Soyapati Samyutta. So Bante can find this sutta in Tipitaka. So any question, Bante?
Yes, now I can understand because of the it is very famous sutra in Samyutta Nikaya, and there is several sutras from the Mahanama. Then actually I wanted to know about how he mentioned in Mahayana Sutra also. That is why I asked that question.
I think if there is no any question yet,
Yes, Bante Dhammaloka can ask questions. But I thought you are going to give answers, but you also can ask questions.
yeah, I'm asking it. Any, I think any Bante, any speaker who did or whenever one. That would be important to know. Now we know what should be done, like making the person who is dying Dhamma oriented. And the other thing I want to know is what shouldn't be done. Because some people would hug them and cry in front of them, things like that. So what would be the consequences of that type of action?
There is a yes, one of three.
Okay, so I think that's a very good thing to reflect on. From my experience, I have seen sometimes even the monks, we decide what to do at the last moment of our devotees. I think as a practice, maybe it's a good thing to ask question, what do you like? What brings you peace? How are you feeling? Knowing where the person is at that moment, if that person can communicate at the last moment, I think, asking those questions that will help us to support that person from where that person is, not just pouring on things that may be unfamiliar and not able to grasp at that moment. So that's kind of a, I think important point to remember when supporting someone at the last moment. Even crying around that person, if that person well versed in Dhamma, I believe it won't bother that person. That person has that Dhamma practice to stabilize the mind. So, but someone who hasn't practiced Dhamma, seeing that crying people around and sadness around can create more sadness and attachment and, not feeling ready to live. So that can create too much trouble for that person. So therefore, for a Dhamma practitioner, I don't think it will be a problem, but it is better to leave that person alone, cry outside, I guess, not in front. And that's our love and kindness supporting that person to, peacefully have a death. and it also depends on the person as well. Sometimes we don't know where they are in their Dhamma practices. So it's something unseen.
Thank you so much for that answer. So let's Laura, I think Martin. Is it correct, my pronunciation of your name?
Yes, Laurel Martin. Thank you. Well, I've got 3 questions. One for that's unrelated to the other 2 is for any of the 3 who want to respond. If someone has already died and it's been several years, is there anything that you can do to help them, or are they just gone?
I think answers start from Rinpoche and Ajita and Phapang.
If Venerable, you want to go ahead, so you can, but otherwise I can make a comment on that.
Please go ahead, Venerable.
So when someone is dead, in the Buddhist perspectives, we believe a circle of samsara, life, birth and death. If we really think, our relatives might still think of us and transfer merits and doing good things. But we have no capacity to see you, pursue any of those as humans. So if someone born as a human, they may not receive merits or anything that we do for them. And there's one particular place in the text it describes as in this existence where they're born, yet they expect some merits. So for those who are living, doing good things, they create a space that these people can see and be happy. So creating that space for them to experience happiness is merit transferring or transferring merit itself. So when someone is dead, most rituals are for those who are alive, for their grief and to bring more, peace to their lives. But it is so hard to say that whether they receive our good thoughts, because it's an unseen reality. So out of compassion, we do meritorious activities like giving dana, helping someone, and cultivate good thoughts, good energy in our heart, in our mind. And we invite, if you can see my good deeds, please look at this and be happy and make your journey a peaceful one. So we do that invitation. And it is so hard to say that the outcome of that from their end, but for sure it helped us in our grief and to cultivate more good things in our life as well.
Thank you. Any other one says anything about that?
I had two more questions there, if I may. I would like to ask Sankor Rinpoche, is this beginningless mind, does the beginningless mind think in the way that we consider it, I guess, conventionally? And even though I lack inherent existence in this life, is this beginningless mind who I am?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Laurel. If I get the question right, did you say, is that beginningless mind, could it think? Is it the question?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay. All right. So to answer the question, so it is yes and no. It is yes for a trained practitioner. One can actually harness that perennial mind or the beginningless mind. So, but for non-practitioner or someone who hasn't reached a highly realized state, that mind, which is, it is in a sort of a dormant state, the perennial mind, which has been passing down from beginningless. So that mind is a subtle form of mind, and as the name suggests, it is so subtle that it is difficult, if not very difficult, for an untrained person to harness that mind. So for that reason, for an untrained person, you cannot think with that perennial mind, what we refer to as in Tibetan the Nyugme Sim, the original mind, or the perennial mind, or the infinite mind, whatever. So it is in the most subtle form. So almost as in a dormant state. One cannot say it's a dormant because it is a mind. So as long as we are alive, or I mean, in our living state, when we are alive, we are crammed with the cruder form of mind. So all these crude level of mind are, dancing through our life, that we are unable to harness that subtle form of mind. But as a trained practitioner, at that, if you train yourself in, especially in the mind training, and if you study the different level of mind and the mental mind and the mental factor and so on and so forth, one can train you can train yourself to be able to harness that mind, the perennial mind, at the time of death, at which all the cruder form of mind, or what we also sometimes refer to as the external mind, the mind that is able to, the mental formations that is able to focus on the outside world. So when all of those external doors or external oriented mind were closed down, then we can, what remains at the time of death, who is dying or what is dying, is actually that subtle form of mind. And that subtle form of mind, also referred to as clear light, as we discussed earlier, that can be harnessed. So for an ordinary practitioner, it may not necessarily be clear light. It may be, a very low light from husky sort of light. But for a practitioner, especially of a high caliber, then it will be clear light. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamaji. We almost reached to the ending time. But however, I think Yeng Singjel, she was waiting to ask question. If Bante Dhammaloka and Rinpoche give us 2 more few minutes to that, we can give chance to her to ask her question.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
I have a question for Venerable Vichata Karinda. You said that you try to help the dying person as much as you can. Could you give us some advice about helping someone who has dementia or Alzheimer during the dying process? Thank you. You muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you for the question, Ian. That's a very good question to reflect. When someone is having dementia or Alzheimer, it's quite tricky. But the unknown part is, our mind, how it acts. So we don't know totally how their mind acts as well. So there can be a moment that they come into just normal senses and, can grasp something. So there might be things that this person has been listening as a chanting maybe whole life, or something that as a reflection enjoyed doing, maybe as a meditation practice. You know, only person knows about these practices is someone close to this person. So it's always good to check with the family or the person who has been close to this person and check with them what this person enjoy doing as in their Dhamma practice. Maybe facilitating chanting according to, you know, his practices or her practices, or, you know, talking about those things and doing short reflections, you know, might help. But unfortunately, I cannot say one particular practice to support, but, you know, just being there with your compassionate presence and caring presence also will be a big support for that person. You know, sometimes with people with Alzheimer and those diseases, they sometimes go through a lot of fear and anxiety, you know. So it's good to provide you compassionate support and caring support, and just being there and, you know, giving you compassion would help. So those are some of the suggestions that I can make at this moment.
Thank you so much for the answer. May I have one more question, please? My question is for Venerable Phap Huang. So for someone who has dementia, definitely it's difficult to help during the dying process. But as you mentioned earlier, that if you have a good karma, you will float like oil on water, or you will sing like a bottle in the ocean. In this case, although we cannot help the person, but what do you suggest about the person's karma for going through this process? Will the person still float if he or she has done good karma, or because of the mental state will take the person to a different path? Thank you. I hope my question is clear.
You are muted. You are muted.
Thank you for giving me very good question. So before I say you, if we have a good karma, yeah, so we can go with the next life, good life. And also if you have a good karma, like you also can help others. So I think every day we should do more good thing, yeah, and we can keep more good thing, like offer for Buddhist monk, or do good charity for poor people, yeah. And also the punya also you can get from if you have the good sila, and also for meditation, because the karma is very important when we are needed dead. And also you also can share the good karma, the good merit to the people near the death. I think in my tradition, maybe the people near death, they can get a little from your karma if you share them. So this is a clear answer to you.
I understand your answer. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the questions and answers. I think this is very interesting subject. Therefore, everybody like to continue this, but we have to think about time frame. However, I think our next session next month also our topic is related to this subject, and we are going to continue the same subject. Therefore, you have good chance for the next session also. Then your question can keep for the next session. Then I would like to invite Bhante Sutadhara to give a summary and end the program.
We cannot hear you, Bhante Sutadhara.
Maybe his summary is silence. It was a good summary for the topic.
Bhante Sutadhara, are you there?
Looks like we lost him, so he's not here.
Yeah.
He lost the question.
I think if so, Bhante Yoga with Rahul also could give some feedback and end the program also. Right, Kamasiri Handro?
Yes, I think that is the best way. Something happened to Bhante Sutadhara. It is better, Bhante Rahul, do you have?
Well, I don't know if I can give a summary of what all was said, but I just would like to make a few other comments on the subject. That, you know, basically our life should be a preparation for death, because the time you die is the most important moment of your life, because the type of thoughts in your mind and the accumulated karma that you've accumulated in the life are going to determine to a great extent where the mind is going to be attracted to in the next life. And so, you know, the purpose of practicing the Dhamma, as already had been mentioned, is it's the practice of sila and samadhi, panya, or dana, sila, and bhavana, to accumulate merits and to also purge the mind and to purify the mind of the gross thoughts of greed, hatred, and delusion. So when we die, there's no regrets. We don't have any fear, worry, anxiety that would take our mind down to a place of suffering in the future. And so before, as a preparation for death, people should forgive people that have wronged them and clear their mind of, you know, any thoughts of ill will and holding grudges and so on, because these are the kind of things that are going to affect the mind to cause their mind to come back into the rounds of samsara. So really our life is a preparation, should be a preparation for that moment of death. And we don't know when death will come. You know, there's a saying that the next life or death, we don't know which one is going to come first. Or the next life or the future life, we don't know which will come first, because we may think we're going to live longer and then wake up the next morning and in another life. So anyway, I see Venerable Sutadhara has finally come back online. So maybe I just wanted to make that comment about the preparation. Person has to do that beforehand, not wait to the time they die and then think about how they're going to, purify their mind. That has to be done the whole lifelong. Venerable Suttadhara, did you want to give a summary?
You are muted, Bante.
Committed.
Oh, sorry. We are blessed with the rain, but the lightning took off our internet. Anyway, today we just again finished a very informative and very interesting and thought-provoking presentations, and also discussion. The whole thing started with our Venerable Dhammaloka's introduction and Venerable Geshe's the Vandana, the homage to the Buddha. And really the Venerable Bhante Jivagavachara Rahula's meditation was touching that micro level of our living and dying. That at the breath level, every breath we in breath, out breath, we are momentarily just continuing, but always moment by moment. Then Venerable Thongko Rinpoche gave a very clear explanation about from the Tibetan tradition, quoting Venerable Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha, and it's separated the whole thing from Atma to the stream of consciousness. And then also he continued explaining how mind has to be well trained, why mind is important for us to train, because in other words, to face this unavoidable death, we need to train our mind. That's what the idea that I got from his presentation. And then also this, I got, when I was listening to his presentation, when he mentioned about perennial, the mind, the perennial consciousness, that then immediately I was thinking about that kind of passive mind. But anyway, that it was a very interesting, informative presentation. And then we found Venerable Pap Kwang, the bringing this idea from Mahanama Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya, and explaining his view on this near death and how we handle death. And then Venerable Vijita, just without going into very details about the sutta, but he gave very a good list of suttas for us to read, and then we can learn more. And also he touched all aspects in another different way, how it was handled during the time of the Buddha, and then also what are the lessons that we can learn from those suttas to to help our folks who are at the near death. And also we don't forget the fact that we are online. One day we will have that same experience. And for that, he wanted us to prepare ourselves and get ready for that experience. Then all these, all three presentations really touched so different aspects, and some more deeper in one, and the other always deeper in another. So that's a really interesting presentation. Interesting means it's very helpful for all of us to understand it. And all the questioners actually gave more insightful questions, and also the answers came as more insightful answers too. So with that, it's well, we all felt that, okay, we just need more time to discuss this. So we will have more time, and thank you everyone for this the organizing this presentation, and we are very happy, and all are very happy with the Dhamma and Dharma together, trying to understand, learn what Buddha taught from different viewpoints, different cultural backgrounds, and different understandings. And thank you all, and may all beings be well, happy, and peaceful.
Thank you, Bante. Today we had life after death, because our programs had to over in 20 minutes ago. We continue another 20 minutes. Then I think it is interesting experience for everybody, and good knowledge for everybody. We will continue same subject or relative subject next time. Then we invite to all of you to join next session also. Thank you so much, and be happy and peace. May
So
you
next
be
week with
Nibbana.
next week with the November 1st, right?
Yeah, November 1st.
Okay. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you.
Monday, the same time. So we would continue same subject or related subject. Okay. Thank you everyone again and again.